So, you guys haven't known me or seen me around the office. My name is Angelica, and I'm the lead tutor and coach for our office. So basically, you'll see me around, probably in the little tutoring room, kind of doing my thing. But what I do mostly is work with tutors one-on-one, making sure that they're doing their job, and make sure that they get all the training that they need. But also, I work closely with Quinn and Ralph and all the other pro staff, just to make sure that the office is running smoothly, and that if there's any problems that arise, we know how to fix it. And so my biggest goal with this workshop is that we're going to teach you basically how to get through college, maybe not solve all of your problems, but kind of give you some tips and tricks that you might find useful when you come to your classes or when you get to just taking notes, things like that. So this is our boot camp. Okay, so what we're going to learn are these 5 things to start you off with. Later on in the semester, we're going to go more into depth with other certain topics, such as how to create a proper essay, or how to make good presentations, things like that. But to kind of start you guys off, since it's the beginning of the semester, is some 5 simple things that we feel you guys need now. So, how to succeed in a class, how to take notes, how to read a textbook, how to get organized, and how to manage your time. Okay. So, how to succeed in a class. Usually when you take classes, you kind of, do your thing, do your homework, things like that. But some people might have difficulty trying to get through the simplest things. And so just the main type of tips just to get the grade that you want or get what you need are prepare for class. So what are some examples of preparing for class? You guys have any? So what's something that you guys can do on your end before you go to class?
Or the material, the material, whatever the lecture may be for that day, read it.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So you basically got it. So to prepare for class, so depending on what it says in your Blackboard or your Canvas, whatever they're using for that class, sometimes they'll tell you how to prepare. Usually what they'll have you do is read textbook readings, or maybe read a resource that they give you, watch a video, things like that. And so prepare for class could just mean anything. Just make sure that whenever you're in your Blackboard that you look out for things such as read these textbook pages. Maybe you should do that so that when you go into class, you know what they're talking about and then you can relate to that. Biggest one tip, be in class. So I know since we're in college, we're actually paying for these classes, so we don't really want your money to go to waste. And so even if it's a 7:30 class and you absolutely do not want to go, the best thing to do in order to succeed in your course is to attend classes regularly. Obviously, if you do become sick, you want to make sure you guys are healthy. But if you're just not feeling it, emotionally, you still would want to go because you don't want to miss the material. Participate in class. A lot of people don't like to participate only because maybe they're the only person there, maybe because they don't know anyone, or maybe they just don't feel comfortable. But what I've seen is that when you participate more in class, you actually start to understand the material better, and then you feel more confident to ask questions, or you feel more confident to reach out to others to see do you understand this, or how do I contact this person, things like that. So even just as little as answering a question or volunteering for certain things helps not only you understand what's going on, but also build your confidence. Do your homework. Just as simple as finishing what you're supposed to do, that could obviously go towards succeeding in the class. Even if it's as simple as turning in something, the points do add up. So if you do miss your assignments, you could lose your chance of getting that 1% that you need just to get an A. And so as simple as just turning your homework on time and doing your full work and not doing half of it that you're supposed to do will give you the grades that you need. And then take responsibility for your grades. I know things do happen. I know sometimes maybe you just hate this professor, you hate this class, but you do have to realize whatever the work that you put in, it depends on what you're going to get out. And so if you want an A, you have to put in A work. You can't just expect to get an A, but you're putting in D work. And so just know that whatever you're putting in, it has to be what you want in the end. And you can't just blame, the professor hates me, or, I don't understand this assignment. There's many ways to, fix that. And then get help if you need it. Don't be that person that waits till the last minute to get help, or you have 2 weeks until the semester ends and you're this close to getting a C. So make sure that if you need help from the beginning, get the help. Don't just wait. Always feel free to contact your professor or even your classmates, because even just talking to them kind of will help you understand the material better. Even though sometimes professors are scary, most of the time if you get to talk to them, they become really friendly. And especially if they see that you're interested in knowing more, they start to realize that, okay, you actually care about the class. So some other tips just in general, learn to adapt. I know this is mostly kind of geared towards most of our freshman students. College is way different from high school. So just know that you're going to encounter different learning styles and different teaching styles. And so just make sure that if you're not getting something or if you're not understanding it, reach out to your professor so that maybe they can help you understand it better, or just how to know how to get through their class. So if they tell you oh, I want you to do this, this, and this, you should probably do what they say rather than kind of just doing it your own way. And then be a good group member. So this mostly pertains to if you have presentations or group projects. Don't be that person that doesn't do anything, or don't be that person that waits the last minute to turn in something on your end. Because either way, even if it's a group grade, most of the time you have evaluations at the end, and so sometimes people can put in if you're not doing your job or if you didn't do a certain portion right. So don't be that person that people don't want to work with. Be the person that people want to reach out to. Be respectful. Sometimes you'll encounter students that are, very obnoxious, or maybe you guys just don't share the same beliefs, or even a professor. Just know that we're in a professional environment, even as a student. So you have to be respectful, even if you just have to fake it till you make it. I've met some students where I'm just did that really come out of their mouth? But I just don't even worry about it and just ignore it and then move on with my day. Because a class is a class and you're here for the grade. You don't have to be there to make friends. So don't feel like you have to get along with everybody, but be respectful. Set goals. So let's say if it's as simple as getting an A in the class or even getting a B. That can help you motivate yourself. And so rather than going into the class just kind of doing your thing, you set goals, it kind of pushes you to do more, pushes you to, let's say, study more or read more and things like that. And be healthy. We're very concerned about obviously our academics. We kind of forget our health and we forget our personal side. So just know that it's okay to take breaks. It's okay to relax. It's okay to go have fun. School is important, but your body is more important than that, because you only get one body. You get many years of education, and so just know that you have to take care of yourself, whether it's your health-wise, mentally, physically, things like that. Okay, so taking notes. So what type of notes do you guys take? Paper or electronic? Paper. So I recommend paper only because there has been research to show that things that you write down you tend to remember more. Obviously now a lot of people are more tech savvy and like to do stuff through Word or type on the PowerPoint. But just know that there's many different ways to take notes, and there's never one right way. You can do whatever you want. Sometimes they do a mixture of both. Sometimes they just do one. It depends on the class. And it also depends on if your teacher lets you take out your computer. What I find very helpful is using paper notes. And so just having a spiral notebook or even a binder with loosened paper, that helps me a lot, just writing it down. So these are some ways that you can do your notes. Just make sure with this, with your notes kind of have outlines, have headings and stuff like that to kind of better organize your ideas, rather than just writing down word for word what's on the PowerPoint, or word for word from what you're getting from your teacher. So just because this is what you're reading, you want to make sure you understand what you're reading rather than kind of just going off from what they're saying. So going from that, taking notes is listening. Whenever your professor's talking and presenting their PowerPoints or even just their lectures, make sure that you're actually listening. Active listening is more of you're facing forward, you know what they're saying, you're remaining, obviously you can't make eye contact with them, but you're remaining eye contact towards them. not on your phone. Not gonna be on your phone or your computer looking at BuzzFeed articles. You know, actually listening, knowing what they're saying. Because if you know that you're listening, you know how to respond. Let's say if they ask a question, you know what they're talking about, or if like you can actually recite basically what they're saying, but in your own words. That's how you know that you're actually listening. If you're just like, oh yeah, but you're on like Tasties and watching videos on how to make cupcakes, you're probably not listening. And trust me, I've seen people do that in my class. And then also recognize the important information. And so if they tell you something like, oh, this will be on your exam, it will probably be on your exam. So just point out those things. If they repeat it a lot, it's probably going to be on your exam. Or it's probably going to be on a test or a quiz or just in general assignment. So just kind of recognize like whatever they're talking about, what might seem important and what might seem, you know, good information to know, but not something to really look into. Because like I've had a professor where he'll literally tell you, this will be on your exam, and he will say like at the end of class, like remember that thing that's on your exam? It's going to be on your exam. So just remember. And so if you're that person that doesn't go to class, you probably won't know that's not going to be on your exam. So just make sure you're listening, not on your phone, not on your computer, not talking to your classmate, talking to your mom on the phone, things like that. Okay. And then with notes, so this is mostly for paper notes, but even just for actual like online notes too. What I like to do, so I don't do this anymore, but I used to do this in high school a lot, was Cornell notes. And basically like Cornell notes is just a type of note taking that they do, and where they leave a margin of of your notebook for keywords. So let's say for this one, like they're learning about solids. So they put solids on the side. And then their notes part is going to be like, okay, what about solids? Well, definition of solids is it has a definite shape, or it has a definite volume, or examples of solids, things like that. So this is like a good way of kind of organizing your notes, because it shows like, okay, this is the central topic I'm talking about, and then you go more into depth, like what about this topic? Cornell notes have shown to be very successful in like studying and getting to know the information. A lot of high schools tend to use this in their courses, and so they see that's very successful. So even using it in college can help you as well. Or just in general, use keywords, because keywords, if it's bolded for a reason, you should probably use it. Or if they talk about it a lot, you should probably use it. So just know with notes, you know, there's many different ways, such as like Cornell notes, or you can do it your own way too. So there's never like there's a variety of ways. Okay. And then with tips with taking notes, do not write incomplete sentences. Even if you feel like all this information is very helpful, you're gonna have to read it. And most of the time when you read stuff, you don't want to read long things. You don't want to read paragraphs full of information. So you want to make basically whatever they say, make it short, sweet, and to the point, so that when you go over your notes later on, it's much easier to understand, rather than you kind of reading it and then kind of losing your thought while reading it. Use symbols or abbreviations, so you can use like the ampersand for and, the at symbol for at. The W with the dash is like with and then without. So you don't always have to write out the whole word. Just know that if you do use an abbreviation, try to remember what it means. Because I know people, they'll do an abbreviation and then they'll go back to like, what is this? Like, what is that supposed to mean? So just make sure that if you make an abbreviation, you know what it means. I don't know, make a key or a legend in the corner so that you'll remember. But if you do tend to use that, just know that you are the one that's reading it, just to remember. And then go over your notes after taking them. I think that's a lot of, like what a lot of people tend to forget is to look over them. They'll write their notes and then they're like, okay, I'm done. And then that's it. Well, what we want you to do is after you're taking notes, maybe not right after, maybe like a few hours after or even the day after, look over them and see like, okay, do I still understand this? Do I still understand the main idea of what's going on? Only because we want to make sure it still refreshes your memory. You're not just like dumping all this information and forgetting about it. Okay, so going on from notes, reading in textbook. Most people don't really have print textbooks now, they're all e-texts, but whatever is being, like whatever I'm going to tell you works for both. So The 3 steps to follow when reading a textbook are survey, read, and review. So surveying basically gives you a quick overview of what you're going to be reading. And so this is kind of like scanning. You're scanning over what you're reading. You don't have to go into depth with this. Usually we recommend you to do this right before you start reading. And this kind of gives you an idea like, okay, well, what am I talking about in this book? What is going on? What is the main idea? What are the sub-main ideas? Things like that. And so whenever you're kind of scanning through your textbook, make sure to look out for like the titles, the headings, bold or italic words. So usually those are important things they want you to know. Look at the pictures, look at the graphs, look at the charts. Read the image subheadings below because they tend to tell you like what's about, or like they'll give you more information on like what it's for. Read the introduction, read the summary, look at the review questions because that usually gives you an idea. Okay, like this is what's gonna happen, this is what you're gonna learn, and then they end it off with it. So just making sure that whenever you're scanning, you're not just like, okay, yeah, I'm reading about solids, cool. You're actually reading like, okay, solids. All right, this is the definition for solids. Liquids. Okay, this is the definition of liquids. So you're scanning, but you're also looking for important things that stand out to you. Okay, so now you actually read the textbook. You don't just look at it and then put it in your corner and let it collect dust. You want to actually look at it. And so when you're reading, making sure you use your learning tools. So the headings and subtitles. And so those are usually the bigger texts that are bolded in a different color. That usually tells you what the main idea of that paragraph is going to be, or that section. Bold and italic print. Majority of the time, vocabulary is in bold print or in an italic print. So a lot of textbooks, what they do is that they bold a vocabulary word, and then off to the side they'll add the definition, or even they'll add the definition inside the text. So try to look out for those, especially for classes that are like science classes, because you're going to be learning a lot of vocabulary. Pictures and graphs. So things like a pie chart, or even just like a chart of like a study, making sure that you're reading them, understanding them, because sometimes it might come up in your test or in your assignments. Vocabulary list. That's the biggest thing because you want to know the words that you're reading. So like things like, let's say like for my examples, like for my class for depression, there's a term called anhedonia. When I first read that word, I had no idea what it meant. I was like, okay, well, what does that mean? And then it tells you in the book, it means lack of energy to do things that you like. That's how I figured it out because the vocab word was in the book. If I just read it and just went off with it, I would have been like, oh yeah, anhedonia. Anhedonia. Just like throwing out that word even though without knowing it. So just making sure that you use the vocabulary, that you look at it and understand, so that when you're reading it, you can make connections with the point that's going across the paragraph. Chapter summaries. Majority of textbooks, what they do at the end, they have chapter summaries. And I usually recommend to read these because let's say you read all this information and you're still kind of confused what they're trying to get across. If you read the chapter summary, they kind of sum up everything that they were talking about, but in just kind of short, sweet, to the point sentences. And they kind of point out like the big important things. And so let's say if you don't have enough time to read a whole chapter, usually the chapter summaries can help you just to understand at least the bits and pieces. And then review questions. A lot of people don't look at these. So review questions can actually be very helpful because they test you on what you know. And so if you're reading and you're not for sure if you're understanding everything, try to do a review question. And if you can't answer it, you probably have to go back and read again. And so review questions are very helpful because it actually shows you if you're actually paying attention to what you're reading. And so I recommend if you have time to do it, when you're done reading, do the review questions, even as simple as 5 of them or 2 or things like that. So then you see, okay, am I understanding this? Am I getting what's being told to me? But also kind of helps you a lot because if your teachers like to use similar questions in their tests, then you kind of know how to answer them. And most of the time, in books, they tell you the answer and what's the rationale for the answer. So like, why did they come up with this answer? And so they'll tell you like how to get the answer, basically. And so review questions are very helpful. Okay. Read with a purpose. And so the biggest thing with this is because your teacher will tell you, okay, read page 5 through 17 for tomorrow. And you just read, just to read so that you can get it done. Well, we want to make sure that when you're reading, you are reading with the intent to know that you're trying to learn from this. And so the best way to show like, okay, how can I make the most out of this is that you could turn each heading into a question. So for example, with this one, so they have genetic variation. What you can do, you can put, let's say, put in a question, you can say, what is genetic variation? And so as you're reading, you have to keep in mind, okay, how do I answer this question? And then when you're done reading, then you see, okay, can I answer this question? Can I answer, what is genetic variation? And if you can, then you see that you're understanding what you're reading. If you can't, you probably should look back again and see, okay, how do I answer this question again? And so this is some people tend to use this, some people don't. I feel that it's very helpful because it like helps you see, okay, what's the important information I have to look out for? And so when you're done reading, you can see, okay, did I get that or did I not? And I feel like what the biggest thing with this is that generally you don't have to do this, but this is just something like, if you're that type of person where you read something and you don't remember what you read, this is a way to kind of make sure you remember like everything that you're reading. Because I tend to be that person, like I'll read a whole section and I'm like, okay, I don't know what I read, and I just read like a whole bunch. And so this is something that like can actually help you like get your mind thinking, okay, how do I answer this? How do I figure out what this is? And then the biggest thing, reviewing. So just like reviewing your notes, make sure you review what you read. And so the best thing to do after you're done reading, to look back at everything you read again, but kind of scanning it like the first time. So looking over the headings, looking over the vocab words, looking over the important stuff, and seeing like, okay, do I understand what these mean now? Do these make much more sense? And then same thing, you know, making sure like if let's say you take notes from it, that like you're reading what you read, like what you wrote based off what you read. Answer chapter review questions. So same thing, look over the chapter review questions, because then that shows, okay, did I understand what's going on? Did I read this right or did I not? So this is the biggest way basically to test your knowledge. And then review everything again a few days later, because that helps just to see like, can you remember this later on rather than the same night? Because sometimes there's people where they'll read something and then 5 days later they won't remember it. And so to review stuff again, like your notes or your textbook, this helps to see like, okay, will I remember this a week from now? Or will I remember this 3 months from now when they do the final? Things like that. And then just some tips. Whenever you're reading, kind of create a big space for you, like quiet, comfortable, get a nice chair. You know, don't get too comfortable because you don't want to fall asleep while you're reading. That's happened to me before, and it's very possible. Find somewhere that you can concentrate. So if you're like out and about, let's say trying to read a textbook on like at a football game, you're probably not going to pay attention. But let's say if you find a space like out in the student center or in the library, that'll probably be better for you. Or even the true office. Sometimes it gets a little loud at the computer lab. If you want a little bit more quiet space, you can always ask us, and we'll give you that space. And then also concentrate and focus on the learning material. So just make sure that when you're reading that you're paying attention, not flipping through your phone, going on your computer, taking frequent bathroom breaks, because I know it gets boring. Reading a textbook isn't fun. It's not supposed to be fun, but just make sure that when you're reading, you're learning from it and not getting distracted or not trying to get distracted. Other tips, so practice reading at different speeds. And so if you're a fast reader, read fast. If you're a slow reader, read slow. If you want to try reading fast or something, you can. But just know that when you're practicing these different speeds, you want to make sure to see that you're still remembering what you read. Read the introductions and summaries carefully. Sometimes the introductions and summaries say things that won't be featured in the other sections. And so sometimes it's more important to kind of read those over before you get into the nitty and gritty of the textbook. And then if it's difficult, like you're having a hard time trying to understand everything, write notes. Because then whatever you're reading, if you write it down, you tend to remember more. So like if you're that type of person where you read something and you just cannot remember any single thing, take down some notes of like the important things. And usually you'll tend to remember a lot better. So getting organized. How many of you guys have a planner? Okay, perfect. So you guys passed the first step. So, how do you use a planner? What do you do with it?
You like put like important dates or like you would have a meeting and like the time and like assignments they have coming up.
Okay. So you do more than just put your birthday in, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I've seen that. I've seen people have a planner and all they have is their birthday, their mom's birthday, their dad's birthday, and that's it.
You won't forget that.
Yeah.
Vacation time.
Yeah, vacation time, spring break. So yeah, so if you have a planner, definitely use it. Don't let it go to waste. Don't let it be empty the rest of the year. You know, put your important dates. So like tests, quizzes, even as simple as like, I'm going to meet with my advisor or I'm going to this football game. Like put those dates in because then that helps you keep track of, okay, this is coming up, when should I start working on it? Or this is due today, I should probably work on that. And so, or even just as simple as like, you know, yeah, your friend's birthday, but knowing that, oh, I have an assignment due the day after, I should probably work on that first before I go celebrate with my friend. So utilize your planner, don't let it collect dust, don't let it just be the pretty little planner that is empty. So use it, definitely put stickers in it, make it fun if you want to, or if you don't have time, just write your important dates. So utilize it definitely. And we even have some too, so if you don't have one, or let's say yours gets like lost somewhere or someone takes it, I don't know why, but if someone takes it, we have some that we can provide too. So organization tips, some people like to use like folders, so like folders for each class. Some people usually do everything online, so digital folders. So whatever works for you, if you save all your notes online or your assignments online, you can make individual folders for your class. Or have physical folders if they give out papers, notebooks for taking notes, things like that. I recommend to have a notebook for each class so that all your information gets organized and doesn't get mixed up. Because if you're doing your math class, all your homework in the same notebook as your, let's say, psychology class, you're gonna have a mixture of stuff and you're probably gonna get lost in that information. And so have different notebooks or have like notebooks that have different sections, so you can have like, okay, this is for psychology, this is for math, so that nothing gets mixed up. So whenever you're looking for something, let's say your math homework, you don't get stuck, oh, this is like my stuff for psychology, things like that. And then same thing with your computer. A lot of people just tend to download stuff and don't put it in folders, so if they're looking for something, they literally have to look through all 200 assignments that they have in the past. And so make folders, like make a folder for your English class, you make a folder for your nutrition class, things like that. Okay. Do any of you guys have a calendar other than your planner?
My phone.
Yeah, so phone,
I
perfect.
have one like
You have one like that? Okay. No? So yeah, some people like to use actual calendars like outside of their planner to have just in their room so that it gives you just an overall, okay, what's happening this month. Some people use like their phone, so I use both actually. I use my phone and the wall calendar because it just helps you like realize, okay, you know, things are coming up, or you know, this is an overall what's gonna happen this month. And then you tend to see like, okay, how soon is it coming up? Because let's say if something's due at the end of the month, you might say, okay, I have 3 weeks until then. But like if you just put it in your planner, it kind of gets lost, and you realize, oh, next week it's due. And so I tend to use calendars like this online because they actually send you reminders. They can send you like 30-minute reminders, they can send you weekly reminders, things like that. So those are helpful too if you're that tech savvy person. Just use any type of calendar, honestly. Calendars help a lot. They help you keep track of your time and what you're doing. So just use a calendar. Make to-do lists. If you're that person that likes to make lists about what you need to do, because whenever you cross something off, it feels like satisfactory. I'm that person. And so if you like to make lists, do it. If you don't, that's totally fine. But just know that if you do make a to-do list, it kind of helps you see, okay, I have 3 assignments due this Sunday. What should I get done first? And then you can physically see like, okay, I got this done. I got this done. Then you can move on to the next. And then develop routines. Routines have shown that people like work a lot better if they have a consistent routine every day. Like you wake up at this time, you go to work at this time, or you go to class at this time. You do homework, study, go to bed, things like that. Because if you're just doing like, oh, I do this at this time, I'm gonna do whatever at this time, you kind of tend to lose track of like how can you fit in homework or how can you fit in studying. And so making sure that you keep track of, okay, I can do like this schedule every week, keep track of it. It helps you be more organized, or it helps you feel like you're actually getting stuff done, rather than just kind of like placing stuff everywhere. And then some tips. So for studying, create a study plan. Let's say like if you have a test coming up in 2 weeks, start figuring out, okay, what should I start working on? And so what should I start studying? What should I start reading? What should I start doing? Only because like if you have a test in 2 weeks and you kind of just let it get to the first week and you're like, oh, I should probably start studying, that's probably not the best option. You should probably see like, okay, what should I get done first? Maybe get my homework done and then start studying, or things like that, or incorporate stuff. Create a study area. So whether it's at home, whether it's you're working in the TRU office, create a little area to where you feel comfortable, where you feel organized, where you don't feel like a cluttered mess. Because it shows like, if you're in a cluttered mess, you're probably not going to concentrate very well. And so just making sure that your study space is clean, it's organized, it's quiet if you need quiet, it's loud if you need loud, if you're that type of person. So just make sure that it suits you. Eliminate clutter. So if you don't like clutter, make sure that nothing's like out where you don't need it. So like if you just have books that you don't really need out, you can put them away, or if there's trash, throw it away. When the space is clean, you feel more comfortable, you feel more at ease. Because if it's all cluttered and stuff, you kind of tend to get more stressed. Have phone numbers for your classmates. So I know some people don't really have friends in their classes, but it's really nice to have their phone number just in case. So like if you have a question, or let's say like you misread something, you want to confirm, or even if you tend to like work on group projects, it's really good to have their phone number so that you can contact them. So like if something's due, you guys can just work together towards that. Because if it's like a group project and you have no way of contacting them, things might get messed up and you don't know how to get to them. So even if you don't like them, just take their number, put it as classmate in, like English 101, and then once you're done with that project, delete it. You don't want to keep it. Especially if you don't like that person, it's fine. Okay. Managing your time. So what I've found, even with myself, the hardest part of college is managing your time. Other than being homesick or things like that, managing your time is pretty much the biggest thing that people have problems with. Only because like you just don't know how to incorporate, getting your classes done, studying, still going out and having a life. And so there's many ways that you can do it, and it's still possible. You just have to work towards it. So some tips. So combining tasks. So if let's say you have to let's say study, but then you also have to work on a paper. What you could do is that, let's say you need to study and then work on that paper, you can kind of see, okay, what can I get done at the same time? Well, if that, let's say, like, information is related towards your paper, you can use that studying time, like learning about the information, and work it towards your paper or towards your assignment, things like that. Usually, when you're combining tasks, they have to have the same thing to be going on, or it has to be about the same topic. And so don't be combining like your math with your psychology, because it probably doesn't go together. Make sure that they're like still on the same thing, still the same topic, things like that. Effectively using your chunks of time. So if you have a gap between classes, let's say 3 to 4 hours or even 2 hours, try to use it wisely. If you need to take a nap, take a nap. But if you could use that time to get your homework done, you should probably get your homework. Or if you could use that time to go meet with someone, like your professor in office hours, you can do that. So just know that those chunks of time between your classes, or between work, or just random chunks of time, use them wisely, because it can help you. It can help you towards getting a good grade, or even just understanding what's going on. Control time wasters. So what are some examples of time wasters? Facebook. Anything else? Netflix. Instagram. A lot of social media. So what you guys didn't say, your friends. Because sometimes, our friends tend to be like, oh, what are you doing? You want to go somewhere and stuff like that. And you have a paper due at midnight. You should probably work on your paper rather than going to your friend for, how long before you come back. And so just make sure that those time wasters, you control them, you keep them, away while you have stuff to do, because, if you have a set deadline, and you want to get it done, you have to make sure you get those things that will distract you away. Because if you don't, then you won't get it done on time, or you won't put all the quality that you want to put into it, and just etc. And so even if it's like, you want to hang out with your friend, but you should get that paper done, you should probably get the paper done before you hang out with your friend. But you can still have a life. We're not going to force you to stay shut in and just do all your homework and be a little gremlin. You want to make sure you still get out there, engage, go to like events, stuff like that, and not just like focus on school all the time. Don't give up sleep to get everything done. I know a lot of people do all-nighters. A lot of people, will sacrifice their sleep just to get that last studying in. But what we recommend is to sleep, because the more you rest your body, the more your body is able to work. The more it's able to actually process information. So if you don't sleep and you study and study and study, your brain isn't going to get everything. It's only going to get like bits and pieces. So the next day, you're probably not going to remember everything that you studied. And so it's better to just sleep rather than stay up studying, or rather than stay up doing your homework. Because if your body is not resting, if it's not getting the adequate sleep, your brain isn't going to think the right way. Learn to say no. So learn to say no to your friends. Be like, hey, I can't go out this weekend. I have to work on something. Or, hey, I can't take this shift for my job because I have a big project coming up. So it's okay, because you're a student, you have obligations, you have things to get done, and so just know that it's okay to say no to going out, or it's okay to say no to watching a movie, or even like if you want to pick up a shift at work. If you can't, you can't, because you have homework to do, or you have a test to study for, and usually those are a lot more important than going to see a movie. But also set aside time to relax, because if you do overwork your body, it does respond to that, and especially mentally, you will get not only physically strained, but mentally and emotionally strained, because we don't want you to burn out and just not want to do college anymore. We still want you to keep going, but make sure you relax, take a nap, watch some Netflix, but don't watch 8 hours of it. Go out, but don't go out too much. So just have a balance. You can't just be study, 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 or going out all the time. You have to balance. Have a good balance, not only for your schedule, but for yourself. Any questions? It's a good one. Did you guys learn anything from this? Okay, what did you?
The reading the textbook.
Reading the
I like
textbook?
how we can scan it first and then read it, pay attention to what it's saying, and then scan it again. And then I also liked how asking a question and then seeing if you can go back and